Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 East Asia EdTech 150. My name is Maria Spies, and I'm the co-founder of HolonIQ, and I'm really pleased to be back for a third year looking at the most promising EdTech startups across East Asia. This has been an amazing couple of years with lots of challenges and also lots of innovation. So congratulations to those companies who have made the list. And today I'm going to walk you through the list and through the market map, as well as do a little bit of analysis on this market. So let me just start off by maximizing that screen. Okay. And so first up, as I mentioned, this is the third year that we've been doing the East Asia EdTech 150. And every year we undertake to identify the most promising startups in EdTech globally. There are 1,000 all around the world, but we don't do it from a top-down perspective. We always choose bottom-up, essentially, starting in the market, looking at it region by region, because education is anchored in its context, of course, as is EdTech. And so we want to highlight, identify, and shine a spotlight on those teams within regions that are servicing those regions and their needs. And so this list of 150 is part of a 1,000 list of global EdTech companies or startups that are in our analysis the most promising. Before we start, I want to talk a little bit about eligibility. And so this list is focused on identifying fast-growing, young and innovative learning, teaching and upskilling startups across East Asia. We do have some criteria there. So generally, not always, but mostly organizations to make the list will be under 10 or under years old. Over 10 years old, you can't really sort of be classified as a startup. In terms of geography, the teams that make the list should be headquartered inside East Asia or have most of their customers or revenue in that geography. The scope, of course, includes technology, hardware, not only software, that is advancing education solutions. Now, that could be in the learning and teaching side of things, or it could be in administrative solutions supporting institutions and so on, but certainly supporting the advancing education. In terms of control, to be in our list and made a startup, to be defined as a startup, the organization needs to be pre-exit. And that means it hasn't exited through listing on the stock exchange. It hasn't been acquired. It excludes projects or initiatives or products that are owned by an established company or subsidiaries of larger companies. They're not really startups. So standard exclusions include, publicly listed companies, those with private equity or control or that are subsidiaries of larger companies, mature incumbents, of course, because they'd be over 10 years old. That's not to say these companies are not doing amazing things. They are, but these lists are supporting the innovation ecosystem. And so we're trying to identify those companies that will be the incumbents of tomorrow. In terms of our methodology, powered by data and insights from our market intelligence platform, together with qualitative assessments from our HolonIQ intelligence unit, our analysts, as well as local market experts in each region, we look at these 5 areas. One is the market, the size and quality and relative attractiveness of the market in which the company or the startup operates. Second, we look at the product, the quality and uniqueness of the product itself. That could be demonstrated by customer impact, the service or the service or technology, the team itself, the expertise, the depth, the diversity, the experience of the team. Fourth is capital, the financial health of the company, their ability to attract or generate capital. That could be through sales, through revenue, or it could be through external fundraising. And then finally, momentum. And so evidence of positive, changes in terms of momentum of the company. And so just to move forward, congratulations to those organisations that are on this list, which is the 2022 East Asia EdTech 150. And you can see here in this market map, HolonIQ structures our analysis by our global learning landscape, which I'll talk through in a second. And here you can see the logos of those companies organised by those subsectors, whether it be language learning, STEAM, management systems, tutoring and test prep, etc. So again, congratulations to those organisations who are on this list, and I'll come back to this market map a bit later in the presentation. I wanted to very quickly go through the global learning landscape because this is our market segmentation taxonomy, the way in which we structure our analysis. And so every organisation on our platform, which is every EdTech company essentially, or education company for that matter, is organised by this structure, and it goes from the left to the right. It's a market progress, I guess. So say, for example, from learning and content on the left-hand side, that's curriculum, education resources, open learning, knowledge, etc., through to education management, which are those systems that support institutions typically, could be companies or schools or universities. It could be learning analytics, learning environments, classroom technology, admissions platforms, those sorts of things. And then moving to the third column, it's traditional delivery models, schools, vocational, universities, etc. Or the next one along, non-traditional delivery, new delivery models, MOOCs and OPMs, boot camps, those sorts of different models. Experiencing learning in the middle there is those tools, technologies, platforms that support the actual experience of a learner as they go through the learning process. It could be robotics or virtual reality or simulated learning, games, STEAM, etc. And then moving forward into international education, that's a big area for this market as well, particularly language learning, language testing, discovery, which is those platforms typically that connect learners with future institutions they might wish to study at, international schools, etc. And then moving forward into learning support, study notes and tutoring and test prep and so on. And then as we move through onto the right-hand side, we see assessment and verification. That's a very big area coming forward as well. New approaches to assessment, credentialing, skills verification, etc. And on the right-hand side, that moves into workforce learning, talent acquisition, workforce training, apprenticeships, internships, those sorts of things, as well as wellness. And supporting learners of all types, actually, with mental and physical well-being. And so when we combine those two things together, we see here a Memoco chart, which shows how the 2022 East Asia EdTech 150 is organised in terms of volume by that taxonomy. And so, of course, the larger the square, the larger the chunk, the more companies that were in this section. So you can see on the left-hand side in terms of content, we have a bigger square there in educational resources. Management systems is quite large. Learning environments, education management, classroom technologies were well represented in the list. And then moving forward to advanced technology, you can see and online learning. But the bigger chunks here in this particular list are STEAM. Now that's not a surprise. So science, technology, maths, arts, etc. And international education, particularly language learning, again, not a surprise in this market. On the right-hand side, the second last column there, you see after school and tutoring. And so despite the difficulties of the last couple of years, particularly in markets like China, we do see a lot of still companies who have made this list who are operating in that after school and tutoring and test prep market. And then on the very right-hand side, upskilling and workforce and skills. So here's a chart that shows the same data in a slightly different way, in a donut chart. And so you can see there that in the donut chart, STEAM is around 19%, international education, including predominantly language learning, 16%, tutoring and test prep, 17%, education management, 15%. What we see here actually is a very well-balanced cohort. And that speaks to what's happening in the market. It's quite a mature market for EdTech, and you have solutions that have quite a lot of traction in all areas of the taxonomy. And so when we jump across to the right-hand side and have a look at how these compare with previous years, we do see some changes. So for example, tutoring test prep is slightly lower, 20% in 2020, 13% in 2021, but jumping back up to 17%. But it's taking a slightly different form, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And international education is still going strong. That's particularly in terms of language learning. STEAM has jumped back right up into 19%, and that's a very traditional grouping in the East Asia market. And we see education management there going strongly as well in the teens. And some of that is to do with a strength of education management solutions that are being sought by schools and universities who are digitizing across their student life cycle. And so all around the world, not just in this market, we see a strengthening of education management solutions as governments and institutions seek to strengthen and digitize their processes and build in more, not necessarily fully online learning, but certainly digital approaches to accessing content and communicating with students or parents, or those sorts of solutions. So we're seeing growth in that area for sure. East Asia is a very dominated by direct-to-consumer models and always has been. But you can see here over the last couple of years, we've seen a growth in B2B. And again, this sort of links in with that management systems, not only, but majority of those management systems, education management category, are B2B solutions supporting schools, universities, governments, companies, and so on, vocational education, etc. And so we see a growth in the B2B solutions this year, and we will continue, we think, to see that over the coming years. And in terms of geographical split, you can see here that the share between China, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan particularly, has changed slightly. China's last year, over 58% of the cohort were based in China, headquartered in China. Now that's reduced to 49%. Some of that definitely has to do with the challenges of that market, particularly in the after-school academic tutoring market over the last 12 to 18 months. And as a consequence of that, we see a sort of strengthening of different markets such as South Korea, Japan, and also the Taiwan market. We do, this is a healthy thing. There's great innovation happening in all of these markets, and we'll continue to see growth in all of them. Just moving forward to the age of the list. And so here you see, again, relatively mature cohort. So 42% of the cohort are between 7 and 9 years old. Now, everybody knows that EdTech takes a bit longer to mature or to get to traction than other industries. And so those 7 to 9 year old companies are really embedded. They're strong and growing, they're mature. And at the same time, we have, under 3 years old and 4 to 6 years old. So under 6 years old, there's 46%. So nearly half are in that earlier stage, which is really great to see. It is promising to see so many, 3 or less years old companies in this cohort, which means it's the ecosystem is growing well, and we have a good pipeline of EdTech companies starting, growing, and then maturing and exiting, and that's a great sign. Let me just jump through to for those of you who are listening, who are our customers, of course, you can deep dive this list. We have all the details on all the companies and their activities and so on. If you're not a customer, please reach out and we'd be happy to walk you through what this looks like. But again, congratulations to the teams that have been identified in the 2022 East Asia EdTech 150. I wanted just a little bit more commentary on some of the trends that we're seeing in this market right now. One of the things that we're seeing even in the tutoring and test prep market is a greater focus on supporting the whole child, particularly in K-12. This is a very big K-12 market. We are seeing student well-being solutions. We're seeing sort of personalised learning, supporting individuals, some changes to pedagogy there in the way that even in the after-school tutoring market is moving. Lots of creative development, music, hobbies, painting, sports, those sorts of areas, which is encouraging to see. And so there's a little bit less of the sort of hothouse academic tutoring environment that we've seen in the market in the past. In the China market, where in this list we're definitely seeing a greater focus. It's been building for the last couple of years, but a greater focus on vocational education. And, the Chinese government, of course, are supporting vocational models. And there's some really wonderful vocational education teams that are building and growing in that market. And so vocational education is definitely one to watch out for. And in Korea and Japan, the solutions in workforce and upskilling are very interesting. It's a different dynamic in those markets, and there's lots of calls for digital skills and upskilling and so on, especially in tight labour markets. And so we see some really wonderful workforce solutions coming through out of those markets. And again, just to finish off, I want to say congratulations to those teams who are in this list. Every one of you will receive a badge that you can share to highlight the fact that you were chosen as not only one of the 2022 East Asia EdTech 150 companies, but also one of the 1,000 most promising EdTech companies globally. So again, thank you so much and congratulations, and we'll see you next time.